Hello, and welcome to Meet the Real Leaders, where today we will be in conversation with Rajamannar, the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer of Mastercard. I'm Heather Mann, General Manager of Real Leaders. I'm thrilled that you're joining us today, and I know you will find a lot of value and inspiration over the next 60 minutes. As some of you know, we host these events on a monthly basis. We invite you to come back and join us next month. You can register for the September event at realleaders.com/meet. You'll also see this link posted during the event today. We have 3 simple requests. Please mute your mobile devices and your Zoom microphones. Also, we request that you keep your camera on during the event, but especially in the breakthrough rooms during the second half. We find that when we can see each other, it makes the breakthrough discussions much more engaging and worthwhile. Please note that Zoom may prompt you to tap the accept button for recordings when you go into your breakthrough room. Lastly, please go ahead and type in the chat box where you're joining us from today, since it's great to see the global audience participation. And now I'd like to introduce you to Real Leaders founding editor, Grant Schreiber, who will be facilitating the conversation today. Grant?
Thank you, Heather. We're having a few problems getting Raja on the line with his Zoom link. While we troubleshoot, I'd like to just do a bit of an icebreaker with somebody who was going to be coming up a little bit later in the event today, James Rosebush, who is a speaker extraordinaire, who has worked with some very high-level speakers around the world. So if you wouldn't mind, we're just going to go straight to James for 5 minutes while we sort out the technical issues. James, you have some really interesting stories around some speech making that you've done with Queen Elizabeth II. Would you mind starting the event today just by sharing a few of those thoughts with us?
Not at all, Grant, and it's great to see everyone and be back together again. I think these monthly meetings are tremendously helpful and interesting. I've seen a lot of feedback from what goes on in both the general sessions and in the breakout rooms. So I'm honored always to be a part of it. And to be an icebreaker, it sounds like a cocktail party to me. So I think it's a great idea. So today, I thought, since I was quoted yesterday on People magazine, not always my favorite place to be quoted, but it was an interesting quote yesterday from my column, actually maybe 2 years ago on Business Insider, where I had a column on leadership, talking about my experience with Queen Elizabeth II. And I was honored to spend time with her, but to most importantly, not just to spend time with her over several years, but also to learn from her, believe it or not, about public speaking. So as a public speaking coach, I get to work with CEOs, teachers, kids, students, all kinds of people at every level, but with the main objective of improving your ability to communicate a message and to drive it home and to really make sure that what you're doing, imparting, is from a basis of authenticity. And that's really where we start in our coaching process. So there's no one really more authentic in the world than Queen Elizabeth. I think everyone would agree with that, right? So what I learned from her is that her extraordinary skill is based on 5 different points, keys, as I describe them. And the first one is to always, and these are for you, to actually to mirror in your own public speaking if you'd like to as well. So you see a lot about her, especially written about her today, because of the controversies of her family and also because of the death of her husband and because of the fact that she's the longest reigning monarch, I think, in global history, which I think is an amazing fact in itself. Here are 5 tips that I take away from Queen Elizabeth II. Number 1, always be prepared and briefed on your audience. Now, you might say to me, Jim, that's easy. You're the queen. She has a staff of thousands. You know, people can tell her, they can educate her about, they can inform her, and they can give her the background on where she's speaking and who she's speaking to. But that doesn't excuse you from not knowing about it. I see so many speakers that go into, maybe it's even a staff meeting and they're making remarks, or maybe they're speaking to thousands of people, but they're not well educated or briefed about who the audience really is. You can't be successful without knowing that. So if you're not briefed, and if you don't have an abundant number of staff members to do it, find out yourself. Who are these people that I'm talking to? I remember once I was giving a speech at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and I mistakenly thought I was going to be talking to students that might have been hostile. Well, when I got to and stood in front of the audience, I saw that it was a standing room only audience, which was great, but they were all retirees. They weren't students at all. So I had to adjust my audience. So that's number one. Always
James,
be
can I
brief.
quickly just stop you there and I'll
Yes.
let you continue. I just want to acknowledge that we do have Raja with us. He's
Okay.
managed to join us. So I'd like to say hi. James, if you could just wrap up in the next 30 seconds or so and we'll jump straight
Okay.
on to our main event. Thank you so much.
Okay, the icebreaker is melting. So the other points are to say something that is related to the environment in which you're speaking. So you convey to your audience that you're aware of where you are. Third is make your audience feel important by asking them a question. So the Queen is expert at this. She always is asking, well, tell me about you, which is the way she handled her relationship with me. Tell me about you. Tell me about this computer that you bought as a state gift for Buckingham Palace. Number four, be sure that you are building a bridge to your audience. The Queen always does that. And by building a bridge, I mean construct a way to be talking back and forth. And that is how you build a lasting impression. And lastly, number five, leave an impression. That is inspire, elevate, leave your audience better educated or more inspired or happier because you've had communication with them. So those are my 5 tips for today, drawn from my relationship with Queen Elizabeth II. Grant.
Great. Thank you so much, James. That was really interesting. Thank you so much for that. I'd now like to welcome Rajamannar to Meet the Real Leaders today. Raja is the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer and the President of Healthcare Business at Mastercard. He's also the author of the best-selling book, Quantum Marketing. Raja is globally recognized for his innovative thinking and leadership in business transformation across industries, and in particular, his leadership in Mastercard's marketing and brand transformation. According to Raja, the last 5 years has seen more change in marketing than the previous 50, and the next 5 years will outpace all of them put together. Unlocking the power of effective marketing in the future will require a new kind of leadership and a new sense of purpose. He thinks we all need to challenge our current thinking and master a new marketing mindset to address the needs of tomorrow's consumers. And he's here today to explain how. Raja, welcome. I think you may be on mute.
Okay, I hope that works now. Can you hear me? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Grant, thank you very much for having me here. Much appreciated, and apologies for the technological glitch.
No problem.
I'm glad at least we could get over it. Thank you so much for accommodating and being flexible.
Sure. I would like to kick off by asking you, you've been in marketing for many, many years, worked on some very prestigious campaigns, and you've been with Mastercard for a while. I wanted to ask you, what should business leaders know about the consumers of tomorrow? In a world of social upheaval, dwindling natural resources, we've got global pandemics. What type of message will resonate with consumers of the future?
See, I think one of the biggest cultural transformations that's happening around the world is that consumers are not expecting brands and companies to sell stuff to them. Yes, they want to buy stuff, but it just doesn't end there. It actually is just the beginning. They want brands to do good for the society. They want brands and companies. When I say brands, I'm interchangeably using companies and brands. They want them to be honest, to operate with integrity and ethics. They want brands and companies to be transparent and not to take them for a ride. They want good practices, not deceptive practices. So there is a significant expectation that is there from the consumers as to how companies and brands should behave. And this is very interesting. If you look at various generations of people, consumers from Gen Z, the millennials, the centennials, these are the people who are actually much more socially conscious and socially responsible than people, for example, of my generation are. That bodes very well for our society at large. And I'm talking about the global society. I'm not referring to any individual country, because these phenomena are across the globe and not restricted to some kinds of countries or some specific countries. It's universal. So consumer marketers historically have been focused on their brand, their company, their profits. That will not cut in future. Consumers are saying that they are willing to pay a premium for a company which behaves in a societally responsible fashion. And therefore, marketers have to change their mindset. So this is one part of it. The second part of it is technologies disrupt people's lives for good or for bad. Like like a sword, it has got two edges. You can use it for good or bad. So technology is technology. So it has good effects and it has bad effects. So for example, if you look at what is coming down the pike, you got artificial intelligence. It's brilliant if you deploy it appropriately in medical sciences. It is terrible if you don't get rid of the intrinsic bias that can creep into AI, which becomes very difficult to control once the Frankenstein is let loose in the marketplace. You have got augmented reality, you got virtual reality, blockchains, NFTs, 3D printing, 5G, drones, autonomous driving vehicles, Internet of Things, smart speakers, wearables. It's a long list of technologies which are all happening as we speak. So these will disrupt people's lives in good and bad ways in the very near future. Marketers have to understand what exactly are the implications of these zillions of technologies that are coming at us like a torrent or in a torrent, and adjust their strategies. In fact, the theme of my book, Quantum Marketing, essentially is to say that the future is going to be so radically different that the current methods and strategies and concepts and frameworks of marketing will simply not work in this impending fifth paradigm. Marketing has undergone changes. We are in the fourth paradigm. We're at the cusp of the fourth and the fifth paradigm, right? The paradigms right now. Each one of the preceding paradigms was ushered in by a couple of disruptive technologies. Like, for example, from paradigm 3 to 4, it was by social media platforms, which changed our lives, and the connected mobile smartphones or smart devices, which have again changed our world. Between these two technologies, marketing came into the fourth paradigm, where now we have got mobile marketing, location-based marketing, social media marketing, influencer marketing, all kinds of capabilities have been given to marketers. But the negative side is consumers feel persecuted or sort of, they feel that their privacy is being violated. So it's everything has got two sides of the coin, literally. So marketers already are discovering that a number of things that they used to practice are no longer acceptable. And even if they're acceptable, they're no longer going to work. You have to reinvent marketing from ground up. Every single concept of marketing is being put on its head. So that new way of marketing into the future is what I call as quantum marketing. And my book is a high-level playbook to simplify to the reader what each one of these technologies are and what their impact will be, and then how should they really behave going forward. Like, for example, one full chapter I have got is on purpose. One full chapter is on ethics and integrity. And also there are very provocative things that I say. And like, for example, if you look at loyalty programs, it's interesting. I read an article sometime back on bbc.com saying that when some survey has been done amongst people who are either married or in a relationship, and a vast majority of them, 70%, have acknowledged that they have cheated on their spouses or on their partners. And another chunk of people said that if they had an opportunity not to get caught, for sure, they would also have cheated. Now, I'm not here to make any value judgment, but my question as a marketer is, if people in the relationship have actually got into that relationship with commitment, either explicit commitment or an implicit commitment, and they're aware of the consequences of not being loyal, but a vast majority are anyway not loyal. So as marketers, are we stupid to run loyalty programs and expect people will be loyal to our brands? We got the equation completely wrong. There is nothing like brand loyalty. And we have to rethink that whole paradigm. So I say what the new paradigm is. You want stickiness of the consumers for sure. You want the consumers to stay with your brand. But operating from a platform or from a perspective that is flawed is not going to get us there. Like today, for example, if you look at myself, I have got literally, because I travel quite a lot, at least pre-pandemic, I used to travel quite a lot, and I began traveling again. I'm always on the road somewhere or the other. So I have got memberships of every single major hotel group. I've got frequent flyer membership of every single airline, literally, that I fly on. So is that really loyalty? No, I'm only looking for some cheap returns or rewards through my membership to those. It's not loyalty. So when they call that these are loyalty programs that will reward you, recognize you, it grates my nerves. I said, this is not true. So we have to reinvent. So these are the kind of concepts I have been raising. As advertising as we know it is dead. Loyalty is to be completely transformed and reimagined. The way we get consumer insights is completely stupid. How we need to really look at consumer insights in the future. So this is what I have been sort of talking about, and this is what the whole concept of quantum marketing is in the fifth paradigm. I know that was a very, very long-winded answer to your short and straight question, right? But
sure.
I could
Thank you, Raja. Raja, you did say that brands will require a complete reimagination, rather, if they are going to survive in the future. Can you give some practical starting points for people listening today?
Absolutely. See, let's look at this way. How many of the businesses and companies talk about giving a seamless, frictionless, delightful experience for our consumers? Practically everyone says, yeah, we need to give beautiful experience. There are people who are chief experience officers that companies are hiring to do exactly that. And UX, CX has become the buzzword. Any product or service you're developing, they say, what's the UX, what's the CX, and how is the experience flow going to look like? Is it seamless, frictionless? Now, turn it around a little bit. I watch YouTube videos. Coming from India, I love those silly songs from the Indian movies. I watch them, and I'm an animal lover. I watch a number of animal videos. Okay, here is where my journey begins, consumer journey. I start watching the video. Say maybe it's a long song of 6 minutes in India, some Bollywood song. Exactly at the end of 3 minutes, the video halts and I get a stupid ad that destroys my experience. You're introducing friction. I was happy by myself watching my video. Now you, marketer, and you, the platform YouTube, have not destroyed my experience by butting yourselves into my space and giving me some stupid ad I don't care about. It actually upsets me. Then, to make my life, and what am I doing? I'm just waiting for that skip button to appear. It takes 5 seconds for it to come. So the moment it comes, I click in and then I continue. But when you're listening to a song, if you're listening to a song in an interrupted fashion, it's not a great experience. To make my life even more difficult, now YouTube has introduced 2 ads for each break. The first ad, if you suffer through it, then the second ad you have to also suffer through. And then I had to, so I said, what kind of an idiotic approach is this? You want to tell your story to consumers in such an intrusive, annoying fashion that I, as a consumer, I said, to hell with you, YouTube, I'm not going to watch it anymore. And to hell with you, advertiser, I'm not going to buy your product. As a consumer, this is what I do. My wife used to be a major consumer of these videos. She totally stopped. What do? We go to ad-free environment. The Netflix, the Amazons, it's ad-free heaven. You can watch when you want, what you want, without any interruption at your own pace. You can stop when you want to pause. It's up to you. That is user experience. Now, I put on my hat as a marketer. The example I gave you is just a nightmare to me as a marketer. I need to get my message across to people. And lots of people in hundreds of millions are going to ad-free environment where I cannot talk to them anyway. I cannot reach them. And more than 600 million people have put ad blockers on their mobile devices, which means I cannot show them ads there. So the 600 gone here, about 400 million gone through ad-free, 1 billion consumers are gone from my ability to reach them through the digital channels. That is a scary proposition, and it's growing more and more intense. So holding on to the traditional ways of doing advertising is simply not going to work. Another interesting data point, because of the fragmentation of the screens, meaning I have got, right in front of me, I've got 6 devices. Okay, 2 iPhones, personal and office, 2 iPads, personal and office, and I got a laptop because this damn thing is on Windows, the other one is on Apple, and things they are not portable. And then I have got my Apple Watch. 6 devices I have got. But what happens is when you have so many of these devices vying for your attention with lots and lots of notifications, particularly, you are constantly distracted. It is the opposite of meditation. Meditation improves your focus and attention. Multiplicity of screens does just the opposite. The result is today, the human attention has actually decreased in the last 20 years. The span of attention has decreased. Today, it is slightly less than that of a goldfish. The human attention span is less than that of a goldfish. Just imagine that, right? Now, limited span of attention. There are thousands of advertisers, tens of thousands of advertisers who are trying to vie for your attention, trying to get across to you through that small window or aperture of less than 8 seconds. And on average, did you know that there are more than 3,000 commercial messages that you are bombarded with every single day, whether you realize it or not? It's a horrible clutter. So practically, therefore, as a marketer, what would I do? And if your tangible example is, I would not rely on advertising anymore to get my message. I'll not waste much money. If you're particularly at the starting of your company or stuff like that, advertising is absolutely the wrong thing to do. Even if you're a mid-sized company, advertising is not the right way to go about. You go to influencer marketing, maybe. You go to event marketing, maybe. You go to experiential marketing. There are so many other alternatives which are there, but classical traditional advertising is not the way for most of the companies, at least to the extent that we do it today. That's going to dramatically come down in its current format. The formats are going to evolve, but till the time they evolve and the proper things come up, we'll see. Plus also now, Google is saying in 2 years' time, the cookies will disappear. So your ability to finally target consumers of the type that you want to go after will also change. So each one of this has got an issue. Now, again, it's not that every one of the alternatives I'm suggesting is the panacea to all the problems. Like if you look at influencer marketing as an example, it has got a bad rap too. There are tons of folks, you don't want to associate yourself as a brand if you really did their study. And many people that don't even declare that they're actually talking on behalf of a brand and are being paid for it, because in many countries, it is not legally required. So each one of these you need to understand carefully. But we need to explore and get to consumers in more sensible ways.
Raja, you spoke about trying to cut through the noise. There's so many marketers who think, or brands that think that the louder they become, the more aggressive they market, the more successful they're going to be. But as you said earlier, people get turned off by that. How do you get people to love your brand, especially in the social impact space, which is I think is an easy way of getting people's attention and to move them emotionally? Where would you start in getting people to love your brand?
See, firstly, as a brand, you need to love some social purpose. You cannot fake it. This is not about political correctness or an opportunistic way of grabbing the attention of a consumer. Consumers are not idiots. They will see through your act in 2 minutes. So don't take them for granted. Don't imagine that they are stupid, because they are not. The way you have to actually look at this whole thing is, firstly, as a company, do you have a purpose? Beyond pursuing your profits. Pursuing your profits is not your purpose. You need to have a purpose. Don't confuse purpose with cause marketing. Purpose is more like North Star, where you want to head towards, the direction that you want to go, the kind of changes that you want to bring about in the society, whatever. Cause marketing is your roadmap to go along that direction of the purpose, to go towards your purpose. So causes, so identify causes which are truly relevant to your company's business or context. That are...
Sorry, there was a bit of a lag there. I just wanted to mention, you've done some pretty brave things as a marketer. You actually took the name off the Mastercard logo in 2019, which is very counterintuitive. Most people would think you would need to see your brand name somewhere. Can you talk, include in your answer, just some thoughts around the creative process and how you actually overcome obstacles to other people thinking it's just a crazy idea when you might be onto something really big?
All right. See, firstly, you need to have a reason why you want to drop the name from your logo. And I had a very strong reason why. So for example, if you look at an Apple Watch or devices, wearables, the screen size is very small. And the space which is available is split across multiple brands when you're about to check out, when you're buying something. Now, what happens in that small space, nobody even reads the word Mastercard. They recognize it by the logo. And our logo is very distinctive. It's red and yellow, whereas everybody else is typically blue. Visa is blue, Amex is blue, PayPal is blue. They're all the blues. We are the ones which are sticking out a little bit. Now, what I said is, if anyway people are cued more by visuals than by words, if you take away the name, I have more space to expand my logo and make it look bigger. So what happens is my logo, therefore, disproportionately is presented, it presents itself disproportionately bigger than the other brands when I have just the logo. So this was a simple starting point, but then we had so many other reasons as well. So once I have this, then I say, okay, what is the downside of doing something like this? So I do the pros and cons analysis extremely, extremely detailed. And I would ask people and invite them to criticize it, to find holes in my logic. And once I'm fully prepared, that's when I go to my boss, which is my CEO. And I said, hey, I got a bright idea. Just imagine the conversation, what would have been if I walked into his office and said, I got a great idea today. Let's drop our name from our logo. He will throw me out in 2 minutes, right? So I said, this is the reason why. And he tried to ask a lot of questions because he's concerned, because it does seem on the face of it like a crazy idea, which in some sense it is. And then once he saw the whole logic, he said, makes sense. Okay, let's go to the board. We got the board approval in the same kind of a manner. And then the rest of it is history. Now, just imagine also, in order to be able to present an idea like this, you need to have a certain level of credibility and gravitas, with your boss and with your board. The person who is delivering the message is also very important. Not just the message by itself. You have to earn that credibility. Now, we have been on a tear in terms of our brand improvement over the years. So therefore, when I went, I said, I know this sounds crazy. You have seen the results, so we know what we are talking about. Here is the logic of what we want, what I'm proposing. Here are the risks which are there, and here is how I'm mitigating the risks. And then we launched it. Now, today, fast forward, Mastercard a few years back was a top 87, was at rank 87 as measured by Brand Z. Now it is a top 10 brand in the world, and in the US, it is number 8. So that's a huge improvement in a short period of time with not gigantic budgets, but limited marketing budgets compared to my competitors. One, Interbrands, for example, has rated my brand as the fastest growing brand for the year 2019, and one of the top 3 fastest growing brands in 2020. So we are doing very, very well. And so the data actually is validating the hypothesis that we have embarked upon. But at every stage, I also had a contingency plan. If this doesn't work, how do I quickly pivot? And how do I extricate myself from that kind of a situation? So that's how I went about it, Grant. I don't know if that answers your question directly.
Yes, thank you. Just to follow on from that, I wanted to ask you about the Mastercard Priceless campaign that's been going for a couple of years. You have the Priceless Planet campaign. I think you're trying to plant 100 million trees by 2025. And obviously, a lot of people try and go it alone. You have identified collaboration as being a very important part of moving things forward. Mastercard is a financial institution, you know nothing about trees, but you saw the genius of pairing up with somebody who does know about trees to add value to your Priceless campaign. Can you talk a little bit about the value of collaboration in building your brand?
Absolutely. So firstly, the Priceless campaign is now in its 24th year. So just wanted to make sure it's not just a couple of years, but 24 years it's been around and going strong. Now, when we identified what our purpose was and what causes will actually lead us to realizing our purpose or moving along the direction of our purpose, we started with a number of areas. First was curing cancer. So we partnered with an organization called Stand Up to Cancer Foundation, where we raised funds for them, both for raising awareness about cancer as well as funding for cancer discovery programs. In the last few years, that organization has already discovered and got FDA approvals for 7 different cancer drugs and an early detection of ovarian cancer. And we have been their largest corporate partners, contributors, and sponsors. So that's something which is working brilliantly. We started with that great experience for us, mostly here in the United States, but we also did some in Canada and in Russia. We partnered with the World Food Program to give free meals to children who are from underprivileged societies or communities in Africa, particularly, but to feed them in their school, to encourage them to attend school. Now that has resulted in, we have contributed several 100 million meals. The school attendance in those schools has gone up by about 8% in total and 14% amongst girls. And girls, when they get educated, there is a disproportionately positive impact on the society at large for the future generations. An educated woman is actually going to be a huge pivot in terms of what happens culturally, how she brings up the next generation, and so on and so forth. But that's brilliant, right? So we've been doing that. Along the same lines, we said the planet, we have to contribute in whichever way it is. So I embarked on two. One is with Mastercard, we launched Priceless Planet. So, and you're absolutely right. We didn't know anything about feeding poor people or about cancer cures, but we partnered with people who are credible, who have a track record, and who we should be comfortable giving the money to, because we are accountable when we are doing something like that as to whether the money is being siphoned off, abused, misused, whatever. So we always look for a credible partner. In this case, we went with Conservation International, CI. And CI had, and they know a thing or two about all these areas. And we also partnered. And it's not just about planting 100 million trees. Every program that we do is a 360. We have created plastic, which is recyclable, that is suitable for the credit cards and debit cards and so on. We have created a directory of vendors who supply this kind of material that any bank can access it. We have partnered with a company called Doconomy in Sweden. And this company basically has got a methodology by which they track your carbon footprint. So the consumer sets a carbon footprint for themselves every month. Based on their purchases, the carbon footprint is calculated. When they reach that footprint level, the card is switched off for the rest of the month. Now that's a little drastic, but his consumers want it themselves. And I guess Nordic countries are much more environmentally conscious and they are willing to do these kind of things. So we launched that thing. All the executive compensation has been connected to the ESG goals at Mastercard, which is another big thing. So we are putting our money where our mouth is and putting our accountabilities. And we have got a wildlife impact card that we have launched, which is also with Conservation International. And these guys, what they were doing is trying to save endangered animals. And each time somebody uses that particular wildlife impact card, a small part of our profit goes straight to Conservation International. So then they can take care of either rehabilitating the what you call forests or the habitats of this wildlife, because they're expiring it, and unfortunately they're disappearing. These species are disappearing. So it's an overall effort from within Mastercard. And outside of Mastercard, in my role as the president of World Federation of Advertisers, which is probably the single largest coalition or trade body for all the marketers in the world, we have got a collective budget of about $1.3 trillion that our membership actually spends in marketing every year. So we said we need to actually put together as an industry, because this is not just something which Mastercard should do by itself or somebody else should do by themselves, but this requires all of us to put our shoulders to the wheel. And therefore we have launched something called Planet Pledge. And we have got, I believe at this point in time, about 14 companies have signed up for this Planet Pledge, including part of it could be a race to zero or whatever is the kind of commitments where we are committing that all as marketers that we will not only be environmentally conscious ourselves, but we will ensure that our vendors, our agencies are also environmentally conscious. So we want to bring the network effect in the whole thing. So this is what overall we are doing, Grant.
Right. Roger, thank you. We're going to be going to the breakthrough group shortly, where we will discuss all these issues further. And then we will come back. And Roger, I would like to ask you to summarize at that point, based on the discussion you had in your breakthrough group, and just to round up the discussion we've had today. So I would like to hand us over at this point to Mark Van Ness, founder of Real Leaders, just to give us some quick introduction to the breakthrough groups. Mark?
Thank you, Grant. Got to get my mute off. So let me start by sharing the reason we're hosting these leadership events, and then give you the topic for today's conversation. When the pandemic hit last year, we realized that we all need to collaborate as purpose-driven leaders if we're going to have real impact in the world. So we reached out to the leaders of some of the top Impact Company Award winners, and 55 of you have joined the Real Leaders Impact Collaborative, and so far as what we call founding members. And I've got to tell you, there's nothing as inspiring as getting together with so many values-aligned leaders like you, that are literally changing the world. And within the collaborative, we also curate diverse, gender-balanced peer advisory groups of 8 to 10 impact CEOs in each group. And we Zoom once a month for a highly interactive 90 minutes. We work together to address each other's most pressing challenges or opportunities in a confidential environment. And we each share our experience, our contacts, and our capital sources. They say 2 heads are better than 1. Well, 10 purpose-driven heads are at least 10 times better than 1. So if you'd like to learn more about the Impact Collaborative or apply, just click on the link in the chat now. And now for the instructions to go to our breakthrough groups. First, a reminder that you'll need to keep your video on in order to participate in the interactive sessions next. So if you don't have a video connection today, please go ahead and log off now, and we hope to see you next month. When you arrive in your breakthrough room, if it does not have a moderator, we ask that the first leader in the room be the timekeeper and moderator, and please just be sure everyone gets equal time. You'll have about 20 minutes, maybe a little less today. First, share your name, location, organization, your mission statement, so you know who's in the room. Next, address what examples have you experienced or seen from other brands that have tackled challenging social issues and won their customers over by doing so. And most importantly, how can you do the same? And when everyone has shared their thoughts, and if time allows, discuss ways that you might collaborate with each other. Most importantly, have some fun connecting with new and old friends. And now we're going to go into the breakthrough groups. Please stand by.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you all had great productive discussions in your breakthrough groups. Before I ask Raja just to give us a brief summary of our discussion today, I wanted to give everyone here today something. We've spoken so much about impact today that I want to give everyone a free digital edition of Real Leaders magazine, and it features the 150 impact companies, which are all winners of the Real Leaders Impact Awards. So please look in the chat bar now. Somebody will be pasting a link in there. If you click on that, the code for the 100% discount is already pre-applied. If you have already subscribed to Real Leaders or downloaded a free edition in the past, it will ask you to log in. So please just check that out in the chat bar now. And let's get back to Raja. Raja, I would love you to summarize your thoughts on the discussion that you had in your group today. And also tell us how we can support your cause and your endeavors, where we can get in touch with you, and any final call to action you would like to share with us.
So I would say, firstly, we didn't have a discussion. We were just getting ready to have the discussion and our time got over.
Okay.
So that's
we'll have to have you back again.
I'll be very happy to join, and I mean it sincerely. Number one, but we just touched upon areas like how do you go about partnerships? Do we plan, or do they happen by happenstance? And we talked about what areas you really want to go and play in from a point of philanthropy. How related is it to your organization, and et cetera, et cetera. So we just touched upon a few, but we did not have anything enough substance for me to be able to summarize. How people can reach me. It is raja.rajamannar@mastercard.com. Feel free to send me an email. Sometimes our IT system blocks them off. So if I don't respond, it means it got stuck somewhere. So don't send any attachment. If you send attachment, you can be 100% sure it will get into the spam folder, and we don't have a spam folder we can access either. So that's one part of it. Second, you can also connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can follow me on Twitter. LinkedIn is Rajamannar, Twitter handle @Rajamannar. And I'll typically on LinkedIn, if you send me a message or if you connect or send an invite to connect, I'll happily accept it. Now, in terms of, you had one more question, Rand, or was it all?
If you could just maybe give one last thought on the future of branding. You gave so many great examples earlier of the noise out there, the role of technology, which we're being flooded with every day. If there was one step everyone here today needed to take tomorrow just to start that reinvention process of their brand, what would that one piece of advice be?
See, I think probably it was, if I remember it right, and if not, I'm giving a wrong attribution, but I think it was Jill who mentioned, which really stood out to me brilliantly when she said, the bottom line is trust. Our trust is the bottom line, right? I think that is so true. And I think in future, when the marketing field becomes hugely democratized, when large players will not have any leg up compared to the small players, because of the democratization of the whole space, the one big thing that will differentiate one brand versus the other brand is how trusted they are in terms of their purpose drivenness and social commitment. And it is not just some CSR, politically correct bites. It's not that kind of a thing. It's not chasing the new shiny penny and jumping onto the bandwagon. Today, Black Lives Matter. Yesterday, it was Hispanic. And before that, no. You have to be consistent, committed, and in it for the long term. And what I would say as an advice is, no one can do it by themselves. Firstly, you should have it in your heart. You should make sure that you evangelize it in your companies, in your organizations. Third, we have to join hands to make a difference. And I think we have to reach out to each other and say, hey, is there any way we can actually partner and collaborate? And I'll more than welcome any outreach. And I'll respond fairly quickly. And if I cannot support for whatever reason, I'll point you to somebody who I believe can support.
Great, Raja, thank you so much for being with us today. And I'd just like to remind everybody, this event is part of our bigger platform called Impact Collaborative. And if you would like to get some more information on that, on how to join and become involved, please type chat in the chat bar now and somebody will be in touch with you. I'd like to thank everyone here for being part of the Real Leaders community today. And we hope you're inspired to go out and continue making a positive difference in the world while still making a profit, of course. Once again, a reminder about our free digital magazine. The code is in the chat bar. That includes all our 150 impact companies. And we look forward to seeing you next month. Please join us when we speak to Dr. Nancy O'Reilly, who will be speaking to us about the importance of diversity in building your brand. Thank you to everyone and have a good evening and a good morning.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.